We're going to talk about war again, but not only just war, but conflicts of all types. We're going to talk about relative size. If your enemy is the same size as you, then you have no real advantage, and your best move is to be patient and wait for them to make a mistake and put themselves into a bad situation, and then you pounce on the opportunity and attack, and you can defeat them that way. Perhaps the most honorable form of conflict. So I don't know much about boxing, but one thing I do know is that they have these weight classes, and they only have people fight each other that are of similar weights. So it really just goes to show you that the fight's only really fair if you're of a similar size to your opponent. Otherwise, I guess it would just be a totally one-sided and not worth watching, not entertaining. So if your opponent is a little smaller than you, then your best bet is to get in their face and intimidate them. They can still do some damage to you. So if they come straight at you, well, you're going to have an advantage, so you'll be fine. But since they probably realize they're at a bit of a disadvantage, they're probably not going to want to just like go face first into you. So it's going to be pretty effective to like intimidate them. And they're going to back off for the most part. So you can use this tactic to kind of back them into a corner and get them into a bad position, and then you can have a big advantage and win that way. If your enemy is like 30% smaller than you, this is like someone you could bully. So what you want to do with these people is your intimidation is so overwhelming to them that that's more valuable than actually harming them, because you can get like service out of them if they're just afraid of you because they know if they ever fight you they're going to get crippled. You can just intimidate them, and now you have someone who will serve you in certain ways through the fear. So that's your best move. If you just fight and win, you don't get as much as if you acquire a new slave, basically. Now, if your enemy is like 70% smaller than you, they're just a resource. So whenever you want, you can just eliminate them and take what they have like it's nothing. This is kind of like maybe a prey animal or a predator animal eating its prey. Just whenever it feels like it just grabs one, and that's that. The lion doesn't feel morally in the wrong for eating its dinner. That's what it has to do to survive. So that's just nature. That's the way it is. You can apply it to anything. Fish in the ocean. You can apply it to companies. A big company just eats a small one. Lots of things. And a war, of course. Same thing. You come across a cache of resources held by some small band of people, and they weren't tactically meaningful because they're so weak, but you can just go over there and take the resource whenever you want because you're so much bigger than them. Now, if they're 10% of your size or 90% smaller, they can still irritate you, Just because you can easily fight them one-on-one doesn't mean that they're without any threat at all. They can nibble at your ankles, they can be a nuisance and, cause some trouble for you. Especially if there's a bunch of them, but even if there's just one of them, they can mess with you in certain ways. So, if you encounter this sort of enemy, you should just crush it immediately. Get rid of it so it's not a nuisance anymore, regardless of any, benefit, like getting food from eating it, or getting resources from the village or whatever it is. If it's just a small little band of attackers that are a nuisance, just crush them immediately. Now, where it gets interesting is if they're so small that you can't even feel them, now they get a sort of niche advantage, because you're so small that they're not even visible to you anymore. And now, suddenly you're safe. So I think of like humans, and they'll kill all the predators and all the little rodents and everything, but once it gets too small, like insects, they can't really kill all those anymore. Or especially like bacteria, they're swarming all over your body all the time, and they're just so small that you can't perceive them. So what do? Just nothing you can do. I mean, some of them will die kind of by accident, just on some of the things you get up to, happen to kill some of them that happen to be here or there where you were doing the thing. That's just the way it goes. It's kind of like just side damage from other things you're doing. You don't actually target them specifically unless they're really creating a problem, like maybe a disease where a whole bunch of bacteria have colonized one area and are causing actual like macroscopic symptoms that you can see and feel. Well, then you're gonna have to try to kill some of the bacteria. But if they're just small bacteria swarming around, you just ignore them, and that's how it is. So I think of like a whale and the barnacles that live on it. The barnacle gets a lot of food from the whale. The whale doesn't even notice the barnacle. It's so small, it doesn't even care. Like, oh, barnacle. Whale's gigantic. It doesn't care about that. But if you're a barnacle and you attach right on some super sensitive nerve of the whale or something, it'll probably get irritated and like kind of scratch that part and dislodge you. So if you're a really small thing, you don't want to make a wrong step and step on something very sensitive that gets the attention of the large entity. The whale may like rub its nose against a rock to try to dislodge a barnacle that's bothering it or something like that, and then all the other barnacles nearby are going to get hit too, even though they didn't cause any problem. They just happen to be nearby someone causing a problem. So that's kind of something that also you should keep in mind. Like, it doesn't have to be you causing the irritation, you just have to be in the vicinity of people causing the irritation. So if you're a really small thing and there's a big entity, your best bet is not to irritate the entity and stay away from others that might irritate the entity. Anyways, the point is that I'm like a barnacle and YouTube is like the whale. Or society is like the whale. I am too small to be noticed. Now, by voicing some of my ideas on the internet like this, I am taking a little bit of a risk, especially because they have such crazy surveillance. They can, just by uploading a video, they already have the closed captioning, they already have all your speech translated to text immediately, and it's super easy to scan through text, and now AI can kind of interpret the text and give like red flags and warnings, and so you got to be careful. I can't say certain things that the system won't like, if you understand. I don't intend to, it's not like I'm itching to cause trouble for the system or something, but you have to be a little bit aware. YouTube is huge. It's like unfathomably huge. And me uploading one video, I'm sort of in a way taking advantage of them, like a barnacle on a whale, uploading my video for free, totally for free, just onto their servers. They host it, they advertise it for me, basically spread it around, and I just got to try to not irritate them. So that's kind of something I always have to keep a little bit in mind. Even though I'm trying to be very authentic and speak my mind and share my thoughts, but at the same time, I do have to filter some things because it's just not worth the risk, you know? Even if I wanted to take a stand and say, oh no, I'm going to have freedom of speech, I'm going to say this or that, you know, it's just, some things are risky and you just don't want to mess with it. That's just the reality of the society that we live in. So I think that's enough for those thoughts for now.